Stan State's Department of Teacher Education is well known in the Central Valley. Visit any school in the area and odds are high you'll find at least a few teachers with ties to our campus. That's not happenstance. It's a direct reflection of the university's commitment to preparing and supporting future educators as they pursue their dreams. But why wait until after high school to begin that journey? That's the question Dr. Anna York asked herself shortly after she became a tenure-track professor right here at Stan State in 2022. What she found is that there is no need to wait. With that revelation, she quickly got to work, submitting grant proposals, recruiting mentors, and establishing highly impactful programs and clubs. Educators Rising for high school students, and Aspiring Educators for Stan State students. Inspiring work by an inspiring individual, as you all will find out shortly. Because when it comes to Dr. Anna York, her recent accomplishments are only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to who she is and what motivates her. It's quite the story, so let's get right into it and dive into our discussion with Dr. Anna York, Associate Professor in the Department of Teacher Education.
You're listening to the Stan State Educast, produced on the campus of Stanislaus State.
All right, Anna York, welcome to the Stan State Educast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So we're here to talk about Educators Rising and Aspiring Educators. But before we dive into those programs, what they are, I think we need to know who you are. So who is Anna York and how did you get here?
All right. I came from Puerto Rico when I was 8 years old, and I attended Modesto City Schools. I graduated from Elliott Alternative Education. And then from there, I transferred to Modesto Junior College and then came to here, CSU Stanislaus, where I got my BA and my credential. Went back to Modesto City Schools, taught for 25 years. And then later on, got my PhD. And here I am now training future teachers.
So was education always your pathway? Was that always the dream of yours?
When I was young, I was a Sunday school teacher. And so I used to teach in the church. So just that teaching always came naturally. Originally, though, I thought I wanted to go into the medical field and I wanted to be a doctor. I think part of that is because as a first generation, really that's what we hear, right? It's like, what do you want to be? And so it's like doctor, nurse, those kinds of things. So I like to say I became a doctor later in life, but not a medical doctor.
The foundation of this episode is an article that was written for Stan Magazine. The title, Against All Odds. It was written by the now retired Lori Gilbert.
Yes.
Who's a great writer, by the way. And she talks a lot about your life story and your personal path to where you are now. And you just mentioned being a first generation individual. How much does that play into your story?
It's everything. I think it's so important to understand the barriers that are, out in the various pathways and organizations. And so really finding a way to support individuals to break those barriers is huge. And so that's like, for me, understanding what I went through as a first generation student and navigating the system, I want to be able to make it easier for those students that are coming through now.
Now, there are a lot of students out there and professors and staff members and alumni who can, relate to that first generation upbringing. Your upbringing, though, was a little bit different. Again, detailed in this article. You had, I guess you would call it a childhood marriage, right? I mean, that's not typical for first generation. That's typical for maybe the parents or grandparents or great-grandparents from the old country, wherever that may be. Are you willing to talk about that a little bit more? Because it seems like a lot of your early struggles or obstacles really helped you land in your current position.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came from Puerto Rico, I came when I was 8 years old. The semester was ending at the school. And so I recall starting a class and really I didn't know English. And then on top of that, my Spanish, I'm Puerto Rican. My Spanish is different. Our words are different. Our rhythm is different. Our music is different. Our food is different. But now I was in the Central Valley, where the majority of individuals are Mexican when we talk about Spanish. And so my peers would make sure to tell me that I did not know how to speak Spanish. So that made it really challenging because then now I am in an environment where not only did I not know English, but I felt like I didn't know Spanish. So I was very isolated. And I felt like I didn't belong. And so those feelings, I understand how that makes or breaks a person. And then from there, just going through adolescence and everything else, I was just feeling so just out of place that when and to add to that, I was really overweight, and just all of those components that just really impact the self-worth and self-esteem of an individual. And so then that's when I met my ex-husband at church. And he was at that time, to be honest, when I met him, I was 11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I married him when I was 14. And then I had my first baby at 15. My mom had to sign in order for me to get married. And the reason she did, and this was, she told me, she goes, Mija, I'm going to sign this, but you first have to promise that you're going to graduate from high school. That's all she wanted from me. Because she knew that if I graduated from high school, then that would be the door so I could go to college and anything else, right? So just graduate from high school. And she also signed because she knew that if she didn't, that perhaps, especially because of what I was going through during that time, I could have run away with him, and I probably would have, and gone to Mexico or something else. So in her effort to protect me and keep me close, she went ahead and signed as long as I promised to graduate from high school. And I did. I graduated from high school.
The article details that it was an abusive relationship, right? How long were you married, and what was the turning point that you decided enough is enough, I need to take a different route?
Yeah. So it was a type of relationship that I was not used to. My parents were very loving and caring towards each other. They've always treated each other with respect. And now I was in a situation where I was treated like the language that was used was always an abusive type of language. There was a lot of jealousy. There was a lot of control. All of those components that come with that type of personality. And a lot of times people will say, "Well, why didn't you just leave?" And I always like to bring this up because I think it's so important. It's not that easy, right? You have to have a plan in place. And this is where the different perspective and lenses come in. For someone to say, well, why don't you just leave? It tells you that their lens is from a place of security, right? Where they're able to speak up and say their truth and nothing happens. But when you're in those situations that are abusive, if you speak up, it could be detrimental to your life, So you don't just make those decisions randomly. And then, when I had my baby at 15, I knew I had to really have a plan so that when I left, I could also protect her and take care of her and offer, right, her a better life. So I was married 11 years. I was in that situation for 11 years, but I always, from the beginning, had a plan. It took me 11 years to execute it and come out. And so, yeah, after, like I said, I got married at 14, had my baby at 15. I had three beautiful girls from that marriage. That's the reason I went to Elliott Alternative Education, because it was part of that control. And just a little bit, you ask about how all of this connects with everything that I'm doing. I'm 52, actually 53. I just turned 53 on the 21st.
You look great.
Thank you. Still today, just even having conversations and trying to share my thoughts and opinion, it's a challenge, because when you come from a place where you were, my case, 11 years in an environment where if you spoke or you responded to something, you got slapped or beat up, right? It really does something inside of you where it holds you back to share your truth, your passion, your thoughts in any place. And so even till this day, I tend to be more reserved and observe, and only I kind of wait till people actually ask for my thoughts, and then I'll share. Because in my I say my upbringing because I was 14 in those years, it would be things like, who asked you for your opinion? And there went a slap and there went a punch, So you just get really careful with words and even, how I just a short little story. I recall so clearly being at a stoplight and I turned to my right and there was a vehicle with a male in it. And then at that moment, I got slapped. And his words were, well, if you do that when I'm in your presence, what will you do when I'm not? Things like that. So then that caused me to then just really be mindful. Like I wouldn't look certain places. Do I say hello? Do I not? So all of those components played a role, not just in my everyday, but also in my academics, settings and everything else. So.
Well, you overcame that, right? So you get married as a teenager. You're a teenage mother. 11 years later, you leave, and then you become an elementary school teacher, right?
Yes.
How does that process happen? And how do you think those experiences, the negative experiences, helped push you towards fostering and mentoring young people? You were a young person who's in trouble. Was there some connection there?
Oh, absolutely. It's a cultural thing too. I mean, many of the students that I taught, they were also, children from families that somehow had those types of relationships as well. It's unfortunate, but a lot of times it becomes so part of the culture, it becomes so accepted that people don't really realize what students are going through. For example, I mean, the way that even parents would address the kids, like, with the words that were derogative, right? Degrading sometimes. And I think sometimes they do these things, again, because that's how they grew up. That's how they were taught to be tough, and things like that. But it's really, really harmful to the spirit of a lot of our students. And I saw that. I lived through it and I saw them go through it as well. We don't have control of what happens at home. We don't have control of what happens in the world. But we have control of our classroom. And in that space, you can make a space where students feel like they belong, they're valued, they're heard. That's important. Because if you can make a difference there in that classroom, and think about this. In our classroom, we have students come in 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. That's a good chunk of time for us to make a difference in their lives. So that's what I try to do and did in my elementary years and all the way throughout, even here with my students now.
The article uses words like resilience and survivor to describe you, but you opt for the word love. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, because I think in everything that we do, it has to come from a place of love and care and joy, all of those components. If there is love, like our president, for example, talks about cariño here at the university, how we're going to, everything we do it with the sense of cariño. That's what I meant when I said love. Is that cariño? It's so much deeper, right? Because when you come from a place of love, the individuals respond to it. They feel it. They know that you're not doing something because you have to, because you're getting paid. They do it because they genuinely want that other person to succeed. Everything I do it because I love it. I'm here because I love to support students and I have the love for life, love, for my faith, for my kids, for like when you come from that space, just everything just falls into place.
And from reading your personal journey, it seems like you also directed that love back at yourself, because you go from an elementary school teacher to teaching at Gregory High to getting a PhD. I mean, it's almost like a movie script, right? How does all this happen? How do you go from where you were to suddenly having a PhD?
Yeah. As you mentioned it, love for yourself, right? I think throughout my journey, I always, and I got this from my mom, may she rest in peace. She was always very optimistic, and she also portrayed that love and that care for others. And so I knew that a lot of times we can't change the system. So we have to then find ways to be part of that system so that we can make a difference, right? In order to do that, I knew that I needed to get my master's and then my PhD, right? So that now I'm here. And now from here, I can support students. So I took everything a day at a time. Like I said, I worked 25 years for Modesto City Schools as an elementary teacher and then at the high school. And so I'm a lifelong learner. I don't stop. Even now, I continue. If there is some offering here at the university, I take it. I'm always wanting to enhance my learning because, I share, and you see that in the article and other places. It's like, to me, really, education is freedom, right? So every time I have an opportunity to continue that learning process, I just go for it.
So I may have jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
I jumped right to your PhD. But before that, you earned a BA in Liberal Studies in 1995 and a multi-subject credential in 1996 right here at Stanislaus State. And then, of course, you go on to get your Doctor of Education from Grand Canyon University.
Yeah.
After you complete that, what spurs your career pivot to decide to leave Gregory High and rejoin Stan State as a lecturer?
Again, I'm always looking for opportunities to grow. And so I had been already 25 years with Modesto City Schools, taught 15 elementary and then 10 at the high school. And I was teaching Spanish 1 and AP Spanish, and I loved it. I love working with the students. But I was at a point in my life where I needed to find something where I could make a difference now, right? So we were here from the high school, and I thought, you know what? If I have that opportunity to work with teacher candidates, right, I can support them in this pathway so that when they go to the classroom, they have, what they need, right, as far as pedagogy and things like that. So let me find that. And so long and behold, an opportunity opened up. And so I was able to apply and be hired in the tenure track position as an assistant professor. And to me, that was huge. And I felt so blessed because we also know that a lot of time when you get your PhD and you're trying to find employment in higher ed, you have to move. In fact, many of my colleagues in the teacher ed came from various places, New York, Las Vegas, and so forth. And for me to have had the opportunity to see an opening at the right time and be hired to work in the very space that gave me that freedom and that opportunity, it's huge. And I am so grateful.
You seem to have a long-term vision from the start, and you seem to have a desire to help and mentor the young students and young children of this community based on your experiences and your upbringing. What was that experience like jumping from high school to the university level? Did you have to shift some of your tactics or the way you approach things?
Yeah. One of the things that I tell my teacher candidates now, to me, teaching is all about strategies, right? And it's really interesting because I've had the opportunity to teach elementary, high school, and then now here at the college. And I see learners, and learners have many things in common. And so, whether it's that they need that support when they're trying to figure out a certain concept, right? The struggle, the frustration they go through, and then that aha moment, and then the procrastination, it's all the way through, whatever. So when you have strategies to help students understand the concepts, it's huge. Collaboration, talking to their peer, doing group work. These are all things that I did at the high school. And I also do here because they're best practices for teaching, for learning. So that part of it was great. And especially, I think, having my elementary background, that's where we use all of those strategies. So I was able to bring all of that, again, to high school, but here. And it's just been incredible to see it work. And so I emphasize in my classroom, I tell my students, learn strategies, and I teach them various strategies throughout because it makes a difference. We're past those just read and answer the questions, but rather let's have a conversation and doing that deep learning.
And so at what point do you decide that there needs to be programs in place for these future educators?
So in the fall of 2022, that's when I had the opportunity. I was hired here as full-time. And at that time, we had a grant, the CTIP grant. And I was invited to be part of that grant. And really the focus of that grant was to increase the representation of teachers of color in the classroom, right? Because we know that there's a disparity there, right? And so we all had a role. I was in this team of 4, and then we connected with Modesto City Schools. And again, this is the beauty of this whole story. Like for me, that now I'm collaborating with the same, organizations that got me where I am, right? My foundation, and I can give back even more. My role was in the recruitment. So I did some research and I came across Educators Rising. And so what I was looking for was to find a way to change the mindset of education. That's huge to me. I say this because I was a teacher for 25 years and I've always had the same passion. But a lot of times I've noticed that our field does a poor job of marketing. Okay. And so think about this. Students are in your classroom and they see you as the person who's marketing that field. And a lot of times, some of our teachers are, overwhelmed, right? They're going through that burnt out piece, or something's happening, or they're venting. That's the marketing they're hearing, right? Or there are behavior issues in the classroom and they're not being managed well. That's the marketing that they're seeing. And so I wanted to change that mindset. You've heard the saying, those that can't teach. And I changed that to say those that can teach. Okay. This is a hard field. And I think one of the things that was great about COVID is that it really gave individuals really opened their eyes to what teaching really is, especially like parents. When they had to do it, they're like, I get it. And think about that. That was with their own kids. We're talking about having a group of kids with different needs and learning styles, right? So it's a hard job, but it's an awesome job. I love being able to connect ideas and helping students, right, learn. So to change that mindset, I needed to find something that was well structured, that the infrastructure was there. So when I did my research, I came across Educators Rising. Educators Rising has been in existence since the 1930s. It was previously known as Future Teachers of America. And then they rebranded. They're part of PDK. So again, an honor society. So I love that piece because I did not want to start something that if I left or if something happened to me, that it would be gone. I wanted to start something that can continue, right, for our students. And so I came across Educators Rising. I said, okay, this is good. It's well established. In fact, it's nationwide. And so because I worked for Modesto City Schools and I was a mentor for many years, I've mentored over 20 new teachers. It was easy for me to reach out to a couple of mentees that I had. And I said, hey, I'm looking at Educators Rising. I need a couple of lead teachers. Would you be interested? And they stepped up. And that's what started Educators Rising, was that research piece and then that connection with those teachers. And then this started, and just, I like to share the timeline because I think that's important. We've done a lot in very short time. I recruited the teachers in the spring of 2023. In the fall of 2023, they recruited students. And we had a group of 30. And then in the spring of 2024, we did a campus visit, brought him here. I needed a way because there's a national conference. And these were all students from Modesto High as well. And I wanted to find funding. And this is where the We Will grant came in. And I heard about it, and it was so aligned with the project that I was doing. And it was a $400,000 grant. And I was so fortunate and blessed to be awarded that grant. And that grant allowed me to take these students to the national conference in Washington, D.C. That was in the summer of 2023. Summer of 2024. And then the second year we did summer of 2025, I got to take them to Orlando. And then our next step will be to go to Portland this summer.
These were longstanding nationwide programs. How were they not here before you decided to get the ball rolling?
When we look at the map of Educators Rising, we have affiliation everywhere. And then there's just a few states that have some representation, maybe a student signed up somewhere, but we were not an affiliate. And so when I saw that, I stepped up and I volunteered to be the regional coordinator. And so that's what got this ball rolling as well. So now when you're looking at the map, it has like just the Central Valley colored in because I am the representative for the Central Valley. And I did it, again, it's a volunteer position, but I did it because I believe in this. I believe in our students. And there is such an interest. Since then, since we started this, we now have 4 high schools at Modesto City Schools that have chapters. We had like 78 students sign up at that first school. Another school has 48 students. So again, the interest is there. I've had students individually reach out to me. How do I start this? I had just had a student from Elk Grove reach out to me, and we just started a chapter there. A student from LA and a student from San Jose. And it's just neat to see that they're so interested in education, and they want to start these chapters. So yeah, the opportunities were there, but it's like anything in education. Somebody has to step up. And so I was just blessed and grateful to have had the opportunity to be able to step up.
And you're leading the charge.
Yes.
Excellent. And so again, Educators Rising's for high school, aspiring educators for college. So here at Stan State, who is helping you here on campus on your mission?
Oh my goodness. So I was so blessed to have a co-advisor, Alfredo Vargas. He has just been so awesome. And so we were able to work together and start the chapter of aspiring educators here on campus. Again, we did this simultaneously. So while we were doing Educators Rising at the high school, we started Aspiring Educators here. Aspiring Educators, that organization is through the California Teacher Association. And so that also has been around. It's also sponsored by the National Educators Association, NEA. And so I like to say that Aspiring Educators is kind of like the together but separate. So it can exist by itself without Educators Rising, but it can also then connect with Educators Rising, which is beautiful. So in a way, it's the collegiate version of Educators Rising, and they have agreements to support each other that way. And I recall, I always like to share this little story because when we first started, like anything else, we needed to recruit students. And this is a student organization, so we needed a president. We needed, all the officers. And I always like to say that, as a first generation person of color, for some reason, a lot of us, right? Not everyone, but a lot of us, we tend to be worker bees. And we are like happy to support. But when you start using titles that are leadership titles, they scare us. And so we needed a president for the aspiring educators. And I remember having that first meeting, that recruitment meeting, and I said, okay, we need a president. And they were so hesitant. I had people volunteers to be the treasurer, the secretary, even the vice president. I could get that. But that title president just threw them off. And I remember telling them, hey, don't worry. So we're going to help you with the meetings. We're going to help you with setting this up. We just need you to step up. And this young lady, Deanna, she stepped up and she helped us get that going. And it was just so amazing because she just grew as a leader. She's now in the classroom. She's a teacher now. And in fact, she just emailed me a couple of days ago asking for a letter of recommendation for her master's program. So, also from that group, we have also students that served at the state level as board members. So we went from that, no, you do it, right? Because they were afraid of that title to now they're actually serving in various leadership roles, not just here, but also at the state.
How does that make you feel when you see somebody come through these clubs, these programs, and then become a mentor themselves?
Again, that word love and rejoice and joy, all of those it just gives me such joy, right? To see them overcome those barriers. And then now their lives are better. And then now they're making other people's lives better, right? So if we can just continue this, pathway of love and support, it just gives me such joy.
And this really is a connected pipeline, high school to university to the real world out there in the workforce. What are some of the other skills or personality traits or just things that they learn and they can take with themselves when they leave Stan State and they want to become an educator? Yeah, so you mean public speaking is one. A lot of them tend to be very reserved when they come in, and then when they leave, they're like happy to do. In fact, several of them have participated in some summits that we went through, some panels. They presented with me at conferences. So that is huge, right? So that public speaking piece, the leadership piece, the lesson planning, the strategies, using strategies within the classroom to support the students, understanding what UDL is all about. So all of those skills are just, you see them then use it in the classroom. And again, it just gives me such joy to see that now we are, helping future students as well. What about self-esteem? Because what you were describing earlier about the hesitance when it comes to titles sounds like imposter syndrome, right? Oh, yeah. Is self-esteem and personal self-worth, is that something that's also being built? Do you have any anecdotes about that you can share? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely, that imposter syndrome is huge. Again, a lot of times within either the families or the cultural background, words are used, and again, sometimes the individuals perhaps are trying to build character or whatever they think they're trying to do. But the reality is that those words destroy and really lower self-esteem and really does something to your self-worth. And so when you're in a place like this, and you are being asked to step up and to lead something, those little voices of, not you're no good, those kinds of things that start kind of telling you, no, that's for somebody else. You stay in your lane. This is you over here, right? They are real. And I see that in the students. And so it takes that support from us as professors and advisors, and giving them the space to let them know, hey, it's okay if you make errors. We're all going to make errors, right? We're here to support each other. And when they start seeing that they do belong, that their voices are being heard, that what they have to say matters, it just changes. And that's what I have seen. And I saw it in one of our, several of them, but one of our young men that he went through the program, and even after finishing, so he went through the program, aspiring educators, graduated with his BA, went to his, through the residency program. And even after finishing and passing all the exams, he still felt like, and part of it was, again, those words, those stories, right? That perhaps he didn't belong in the classroom. And it took, again, just, the conversation piece. Say, yep, you belong. You've done this. You did this. Keep that in mind. If nothing else, just remember that what you say matters because people are perceiving it. And a lot of times what we say might be in a moment, but what we don't understand, right, when we talk about
trauma and things like that, is that the word that you just said is not an isolated word. It is connected to everything in my past. And that could be the difference of whether I stay here or I leave.
Everything you just said ties into a personal philosophy of yours, the 4 agreements. Can you explain what the 4 agreements are?
Yeah, so the 4 agreements are from a book. Miguel Ruiz is the author. And basically the first one is to be impeccable with your word. And to me, that's huge. Again, words matter, right? So what we say to our students and how we say it is so important. So being impeccable with your word, not making assumptions, and that is huge. We're in a place that we have students, first generation students. We have students that are going through trauma, things like that. Don't assume that they don't care because they're late to your class, right? Or that something just, right? Find out, I had a lot of things going on in my life. And I remember a specific time when I had to come to class. I live in Modesto. I did not drive. It was raining. I had to take the bus. I missed the bus. I got the next bus. I was late to class. And all of that after being, again, abused at home and going through all of that. So went through that, left, took the bus, and I'm late to class. It makes a difference if, this is what I tell my students. I'm glad you made it. I say that because I know the story, right? I don't assume that they were doing something else or whatever. I don't know. I'm just going to say, you made it, and I'm glad you're here. So, don't make assumptions about why people do things or say things or behave a certain way. Ask them, talk to them, find out. So that's the second one. The third one is really aligned with that, is don't take things personal, right? Again, everybody's in their own world. What they do has really nothing to do with you. Me right now, my mom passed away a week ago, and I am here. And I may be a little bit more emotional than I would be, right? But if people don't know that, and I react or say something, right? Someone might take it personal. Don't take it personal. We're all in our own world. We're all dealing with things, and we're all trying to make the best that we can with what we have, right? Life. And then the last one, do your best. And that one really stands out because your best is going to look so different, right? At different times. Again, if you're going through trauma, if you had an accident, if you're hurt, whatever's happening in your life, your best is going to look different. And it's okay as long as you're doing it from that space. So those are the 4 agreements, and I implement them and try to implement them in my life and my connections with my students, and the way that I live. Because I think I always try, and I think I got this. I know I got this from my mom, is always look for the good in people, right? And I tell this to my students, even with behaviors in the classroom. You will always find students misbehaving if that's what you're looking for. They're talking when they're not supposed to. You will always find that. I challenge you to find them doing the right thing. Because, right, a lot of time we don't talk about that. So that's it. The 4 agreements, I think they're just something that I use in the classroom in my everyday life.
I'm sure your students love you. You seem like a great source of inspiration. You just mentioned your mother as a source of inspiration for yourself. Any other mentors or sources of inspiration that helped you become the woman you are today?
Yeah, so my mom, she was, my inspiration for faith, perseverance. Dr. Joan Wink, which she was actually a professor here. And she was my professor, my reading professor. We stayed connected, and it was really neat because she knew my life story. And she helped me stay strong on days that I would come to class and life was not easy from home. But she helped me stay strong. And then 20 some years later, when I decided to get my PhD, she was actually my content expert in my dissertation committee. And now we still stay connected through a group that we call Bobcats. And basically because bobcats are resilient. And so it's comprised of so Dr. Wink, her daughter, who also got a doctorate at the same time, and then another student. So it's 4 of us, and it's just neat. It's just we meet every month to uplift and support each other. So yeah, Dr. Wink, and then of course, my students inspire me every day. Their stories. We have students that are working, that families that are going through similar situations as my story, because I share my story. I always share my story at the end of the semester. And I'm purposeful with that, because I tell my students, sometimes we make assumptions about professors. Oh, you've always had it easy. You don't understand. So I wait till the end, and they're always like so surprised about everything that I have gone through, right? And they're always so grateful. And then they share their stories. And it's, again, they inspire me the way that they are also so resilient and strong. And and then of course my own children. I have 4 kids. Everything that I have done has been because of them. I wanted to give them a better life. I wanted them to experience the freedom so that they could also then go on and graduate and do the things that they wanted to do. And so I've been very blessed, especially when you think about statistics and they say about teenage mothers and all of that, right? I have 4 kids, and all 4 have graduated. 2 have masters. They got their teaching credentials from here. I have another one that, so I have 3 that graduated from here. So it's really awesome. And then one came here for his freshman year and then finished with Grand Canyon University. So really grateful. They're all now in the, workforce, and they inspire me, and I just feel so blessed, and I'm so grateful to them.
It's just a cycle that feeds itself, right? You mentor somebody else, they become a mentor themselves, and the chain keeps on going.
Yeah. And that's what with this Educators Rising and Aspiring Educators. That is the goal. In fact, that's what I call it. It's a pathway of support. In fact, just currently I am connected. I was awarded another We Will grant for $200,000. So total $600,000 for this work. And what I've done with that was I connected with Modesto Junior College, because we're already seeing this pathway, and we're on a 3rd year, and it's amazing. From that first cohort from Modesto City Schools, we had 6 of those students that went to Modesto Junior College. The first thing they did was reach out to me and ask, Dr. Yerp, we want, how do we do this? Aspiring educator. I said, well, we have to start it. So with this funding, I was able to collaborate with the Dean of Education at Modesto Junior College. One of those students are now leaders. She's one of the students, the president of that Aspiring Educators, and we're just getting it ready and recognized at Modesto Junior College. From that same cohort, we had 2 students that came here, and now they are actually the officers of our Aspiring Educators. So one of them is the president, and the other one is the vice president, I think. But you're already seeing it. And then from our Aspiring Educators, we already have students that are in the classroom teaching. So 3 years, and we're already seeing this just amazing pathway of support work. And so my goal is really to start a chapter at every high school if possible, and connect with other colleges. We have aspiring educators at various colleges already, but they tend to be more like at the university. And so I also want the community college to start those chapters, because then it just really helps when the students, whichever pathway they choose, if they go to the community college and then here, then they have that support along the way.
A lot of long-term goals. Anything on the horizon that will be happening sooner rather than later?
We're getting prepared for the next conference, which is in Portland this year. It'll be in June. So students are already working on their competitions, which, by the way, I need to mention, we had 2 students from our aspiring educators this past summer who actually won awards.
Oh, wow.
So they competed in what was called the Educators Rising moment. And that's a moment where they talk about what inspired them to be teachers. The high schools, they're also preparing for competitions. And so we have what's called the Occupational Olympics. And this all came about, again, with this work, with the collaboration. I was able to collaborate with Kevin Fox, who is the CTE director at Stanislaus County Office of Education. And it was neat because with his support, they do this occupational Olympics again. This is going to be their 40th year. And it's right down the road at the Stanislaus County Fairground. And this is what I'm talking about, how we don't market our field. They had all kinds of competitions in that, but they didn't have anything for education. So we changed that last year. And then this year, we're going to have those competitions again and have more competitors. And then, we're also going to mentor our students will be supporting on the December 2nd, there's an event held. It's called Inspire Youth. So we're going to have a table there to support. And one thing that just came, one other chapter, because Educators Rising is not just high school, it's middle school and up. And I just connected with Mark Twain in Modesto City Schools. And so we're looking to start a chapter there. So I'm really excited about that, because if you're looking at that pathway, it would be Mark Twain feeds into Modesto High, right? And then Modesto High to either Modesto Junior College or CSU Stanislaus, right? So I would love to continue that pathway, or wherever they want to go, because, of course, I'm biased. I love this place, but I just want them to be successful. So I will support them wherever they go.
Well, I hope this podcast helps you in your marketing efforts. For those listeners out there who want to get involved, whether they're students, parents, teachers, administrators, or community members, where do they get started?
The beauty, what I love about Educators Rising is that it's so accessible. All you need to start a chapter is one student and one advisor. That is it. And that starts your chapter. And then if you already have something that's existing, like some type of club, you can embed Educators Rising into it. That's what I did with, for example, at Enoch's, they had the HYLC club. And so I know that within that club, there were students that wanted to be educators. So sure enough, we recruited, and that's how we started that chapter there. You can reach out to me at ayork1@csustan.edu. You can also go educatorsrising.org. They're very responsive, and so they can connect you with me as well. So.
And how about current or prospective Stan State students? How can they get involved with aspiring educators?
Oh, we're on Warrior Life. So yes, we currently have 98 members. We're here to support you. What we love is, our aspiring educators are always doing something to support our students. And so they recently did a workshop so that students would know exactly when to apply for the credential, where to go. They also did a financial aid workshop so that they know all about the grants that are available. That's the other thing. There's a lot of funding right now for teachers. And so, it's a great pathway to go into, and there's a lot of support and a lot of funding to help them. So they did that. So again, check out Warrior Life. You'll see the events there. You'll see the president there as well, and you can connect and hopefully, because like right now, one of the things I'm looking for are mentors to help me with this project that we're doing with the middle school.
We will, of course, include links, email addresses, any information that is pertinent to these two programs in our episode description in the show notes, so listeners out there can get a direct link to what's going on and how to get involved. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think, again, education is freedom. And so we can really change this mindset of the education field, and help with the recruitment. We need bilingual teachers. We need special ed teachers. We need STEM teachers. And like I tell my students in my class, it's one thing to be caring. I am caring, but I want you to be more than caring. I want you to be caring and effective. And so, I hold my students to high standards. I want them to hold their students to high standards. And I think with Educator Rising and aspiring educators, we can start training the future, of caring and also effective teachers.
Well, the future looks bright for future educators in this region, and I think a lot of that is thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Stan State EduCast. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and best of luck to all your endeavors in the future.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to listen to past episodes, visit csustan.edu/podcasts. You can also follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Until our next episode, I'm your host, Frankie Tovar. Thank you for listening.